Hey everybody, Chris here from It's Mead Made, and today we are diving into Nomad Sculpt, the accessible 3D sculpting app on iPad and Android. And it's also in free public beta right now on Windows and Mac OS. It feels a lot like ZBrush, but just around 20 bucks, or totally free on desktop right now. It is way more affordable than some of the other 3D applications out there. I have already used it to design and 3D print my own models, and even sell them. In this video, we're going to cover the basics of the interface so you can jump straight into sculpting. So let's go ahead and get into it. Oh, real quick, I almost forgot to mention. If you enjoy this Nomad Sculpt video and want to take what you've learned here even further, I've put together a full project video called the Nomad Sculpt Jumpstart Tutorial. It walks you through everything from the foundational skills that I'm going to cover in this video to creating a full project from scratch and getting it ready for 3D printing. If that sounds like something that you would be interested in, make sure to join the 3D Print Guild waitlist. If that sounds like something that you'd be interested in, go ahead and join the 3D Print Guild waitlist, and I'll send that video to you. And the doors to the guild are currently closed, but they will be opening again before the end of the year. So jump on that waitlist to be able to know when it happens. Alright, so let's go ahead and get into this video. Alright, so when you first open up Nomad Sculpt, this is what it's going to look like. And this has got a lot of features and tools in it, and also it is a lot better to be able to have some type of stylus when you're dealing in Nomad Sculpt, because it's a sculpting program and it just works a lot better to have a pencil and instead of like using your fingers, since it is on a tablet and it's a mobile app. So let's talk about the default tool, which is our clay tool. Now the clay tool is a build-up tool, so it will actually build up if you just draw directly on your surface. So you can see how it's starting to just build up the surface of this. And it's honestly just kind of like adding clay to your model. And it also is reactive to the pressure. So if you press hard, it's going to press more. If you press really lightly, it's going to be lighter. And that is also on the shape of your brush as well. So if I barely press here, I'm going to make a very small circle. But if I press hard, it's going to make a very big circle. So that is also one thing to consider. It is very pressure sensitive. Now, this is building up. Now, if you want to carve away, you can do the same thing with the clay tool. All you have to do is go over here to the middle left side of the screen where it says sub, and then just tap sub. Sub is going to turn it into a carving tool. So now I can just do this, and it is going to cut holes in the side of this. So you can see how I am just carving it away now. And it's just that easy. And also, if I barely press on it, you can see it's not hardly carving anything away. And then if I press hard, it removes it a lot. So just remember, the sensitivity of your pen or stylus, whatever it might be, is really going to affect your surface. So an important thing to understand is our slider bar on the left right here. So the left-hand side, this slider bar. We have two different sliders. The first one on the top, if you click and drag it up, it is increasing the size. So if you look right here, the size, how it gets smaller and bigger. And that is all about the size. So I could bring this all the way down, I drag here, and I'm going to have a small little spot right there. Now if I scale it all the way up, you can see that it is carving away a lot here. So it will carve away everything. And I could always undo my sub as well and just start adding to it. So here we go. We'll just add to this, and there we go. Now, the other thing right here is this little lightning bolt, and this is the intensity. So if I bring my intensity all the way up to, let's say, 100, it is going to add in a lot of stuff right here. And there we go. Now, if I do this the other way, so let's do the sub and then bring my intensity way down, It is just barely carving away, and that is just how much it's going to be carving. Sometimes when you're using this tool, you don't want to just instantly just carve away half of your model. You want to just do it very softly and just carve away a little bit. So that is really where your sensitivity comes into play. Let's talk about our navigation. To move around in Nomad Sculpt is 2 fingers is going to pan. Also, a pinch is zoom in and zoom out. So if I want to zoom in here, I can, and I can just keep doing that. Then I can zoom out. Then 1 finger click off of the model is rotate. So you can see that just clicking around is your rotate. And if you ever get in a spot where you're missing your model, just remember 2 fingers, drag, and then you can move that right back on there. And then pinch and zoom. It's very intuitive and it's really easy to get used to, so I highly encourage you to just play around with your pinch and zoom, your drag, and your rotate. So now that we understand the navigation, let's go ahead and talk about the rest of the interface, because I think it was important to understand just generally how our brushes work and also our brush sizes and the intensity of those, because this is honestly at its core what Nomad Sculpt is all about. Okay, so first let's go ahead and get into our top menus. Now they're separated by left and right. So when we're looking here, our left side menus manages the scenes, object settings, and other features when it comes to rendering. But our right side is really focused on our brushes. So it handles all of the settings of our brushes right here. Now the next thing is our stat bar. The stat bar is just underneath our top menu. And at the top you'll see the memory usage, you got mask indicators, mesh stats, and this is just really important to keep an eye on because you don't want to get your file size too big to where you won't be able to handle it. So it's not always the more the better. Here we want to keep it as low as possible because if it gets super high, your slicer, when you're trying to 3D print your model that you've created, it will take a very long time to slice it. So we want to just try to look at this and keep an eye on this because we want to keep our scene vertices relatively low and also the file size. Now, if we look up here on our top right side here, we have our nav cube. Now, this is the area where we deal with all of the camera controls. So first we have the little lock icon, and if you tap that, that is going to completely lock your scene. So your camera cannot be moved. So you can see 1 finger movement, I cannot move around. If you uncheck that, then you can move around. And this is just to help you make sure that you're locked in one space if you are trying to design something and you don't want to like move in or out accidentally. Now the next thing is if we're dealing with an object and we need to be able to bring this full screen, you can see this little framed bracket. And if you tap that, it will automatically center that in the middle of the screen. And then the other thing is if we're moving around in a bunch of different ways and we want to go back to our home view, the view that when we first started, that is the little home icon right here. So when you tap on the home, it will bring you back to the original default camera setting when you first open up the software. Then we have the nav cube itself, and this is one thing I use a lot. So you can see where it says front, and if we click and drag, it says right, and then it says back. This is essentially showing you all of the sides of your viewport. Now, the nice thing is you can tap on any one of these. So if I want to tap on top, it will instantly take me to the top view. Then on right, same thing. And you can see how we can easily jump to different views of our model. Now, you can also just click and drag all you want, and it will be able to move this for you. And when you are moving around, if you notice just with your finger, the nav cube is moving with it as well. And this is just a really good idea to use so you could understand of like, okay, am I modeling the front or the back? And you can see it's like, oh, this is actually the back. And also, if you just tap again, if you're already on the front view, if you tap again, it will go to the opposite side. So there's my back. If I'm on right, tap it again, there's my left. So those are just really nice, quick shortcuts. Now the next thing is we have our toolbox. The toolbox is on the right-hand side here, and this is really where all of our tools are, hence toolbox. But there's some very useful things like our smooth, which is something that I highly recommend you messing with, because if you watch, we can easily smooth anything rough just by clicking and dragging around here. And we can also increase our intensity of the smooth to where it is just going to make everything look really nice. Because sometimes you get some really rough looking edges, and smoothing can definitely help that out. So you can see how that has smoothed it out. Now, the other thing in here that's very useful is we have the flatten tool. Flatten will actually flatten a plane for you. And also we've got crease. Crease is fantastic. Because it can give you really nice hard edges in both ways. So you can see here if we've got it like this, or we can invert it to more of a pinch, and you can see that it is able to create all of these cool designs for you. Now, the other thing that I really like is layer. Now, layer is one of those things that it can add a layer to your model. So if we come back here, we can create different things here to where it raises it. And you can see how it raises it right there and then raises it again. And if we hit sub on the left-hand side in the middle, you can see how it will take away. So there we go. So now we've got some weird looking animal, I think. But it's a very nice tool. So I highly recommend going through here, looking at your toolbox, and playing with all of these different tools that Nomad Sculpt has for you. Another thing, just so you can see, this is really where you can see for sure, is the smooth. So I can smooth this out and really make it look nicer. So, like, let's say these eyes, I wanted them to just kind of be very subtle. So you can see how that completely changed it for you. Now, we've already touched on some of this, but our left toolbar is also very useful. Now, this is where you can access the sliders. We can toggle the symmetry of our models. Also, our gizmo, masking, and smooth shortcuts can be found all right here, as well as painting. Now, the last area is our bottom toolbar. Now, this is a quick access area. So all of these buttons are kind of quick shortcuts to be able to access different things. And these are all customizable. And you're going to come up here to the top right to the second to the last icon, these little slider bars. And you're going to click on that. Then right here, you can see all of the different bottom shortcuts. And here you can see, like, if I don't need grid, I can just turn it off, and you can see how it goes away. So I could uncheck every single one of these, and then I would just have my history here. But we're going to want our undos, solo, x-rays very useful, so is outline. But then having voxel and also grid these are just very useful, I find, and wireframe. These are the ones that I think are the best in my opinion, but you can play around. Another cool thing while we're here is if you scroll down, you can change the color format of your Nomad Sculpt. Personally, I really like the green, and just because, you know, I like green. But you can see you can change it to whatever color you want, which is a lot of fun. So yours might honestly be the default colors, and what I'm going to leave mine as is green. So feel free to change it however you want. But there's a lot of cool little presets here. And to close any one of these menus, all you're going to do is re-hit the top menu icon, and then it will disappear. But if you want to keep the menu, every single one of these has this little push pen. And if you hit that push pen, then it will stay right there for you. And when you're dealing with something over here, it will stay. But if you want to get rid of it, you just hit that. And if you tap over here at any time, it will disappear if you do not have that push pen activated. All right, so now that we've talked about all of our different toolbars and what they do, let's get a little deeper now and start talking about adding some different shapes. And when we're dealing with our primitives and scenes, so how do we manage that? What we're going to do is we're going to come over here to the very top to this little 3 dots that are connected. And we're just going to tap that, and you can see how it will just automatically show up for us. This is our scene panel. And what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and delete this sphere. And all we're going to do is make sure that we click on sphere right here, and you can see it highlight once we've tapped it. Then we're going to come up to the top of this menu and hit delete. And now it's gone. So now what we're going to do is add in our own shapes. So first what we're going to do is add, and then you can see all of these different primitives that we have to be able to add. So let's go ahead and add a box this time. So I'm going to go ahead and add a box. And now if I just click and drag here, we can see that box. Let's pinch and zoom and shrink it down a little. And there we go. Once you add a primitive, I think it's important to understand that there is different states of that primitive. Right now, when you first add it, it is in a more editable state where you can adjust to things, where we can change the size by grabbing any one of these circles and adjust whatever we really want. And this is still a square to where we can, or a cube, and we can adjust this any way, and it is very adjustable. We can also edit how much of the density of the lines are. So if we go to wireframe, we can see that I can change how many polygons are in this. So maybe we don't want to have a lot of detail in this shape. So you can see I can remove all of these right here by the amount of divisions. So that is an important thing to understand, that this is highly editable. We can change whatever we want before we hit validate. Now, once we hit validate, that is where we go from something that is adjustable to becoming more of a sculpture mesh. And that means it no longer is a cube, it is going to be a mesh. And a mesh is something that we can actually draw on and do all kinds of things with our different tools. So let's see how this is. And now, okay, I got it exactly how I want. I'm going to click validate. Now you can see all of my tools show up, and I can just hit clay and I can start building this up if I wanted to. And there we go. But I no longer can change anything. Now, I can use my gizmo right here. Then the gizmo is how we can scale, move, and rotate things. And this should look very familiar if you're used to 3D printing when it comes to dealing with the slicer, because it's the exact same tool of how we move with the arrows. With the rings, we can turn it and rotate, and then with the dots, our scale. So the orange ring is scaling proportionately, and then the dots are stretching it. So that is just an important thing to understand, that we can no longer change this. So it is now a mesh. Now let's talk about managing our scene. So when we start adding different things, so let's add another sphere here. We can see that we have different objects, and this is all about how many things we have in our scene. We can adjust them, or we can go to it and select it very easily. Now, I would strongly suggest to start naming these and getting in this habit early. So you're going to hit those 3 dots and you're going to hit name. Then you can say, this is the, ball or whatever it could be. And then you can just tap that and tap the 3 dots and rename this one, and this could be stick. And there we go. So now you know that what's the difference, and you can also move these and even drag them underneath another to parent them. So when I grab the stick, now it's parented and it moves together. And if I don't want that, I can just move it away. Now, other things that you need to be aware of is up here, we can do a lot of other things. So we can clone, which is basically just making another copy of it. And that's really it. and now we've cloned it, and we have two of the same objects. So if I wanted to clone this too, I could, and there it is. So let's pinch that and zoom out there, and now we can see that we have all of these different weird shapes here. But we can do that, and we can move things around, we can rename them. We can also lock them so we can't edit them in any way. And another thing that I think is really important is understanding our booleans. So our booleans will create different shapes. So if I want to scale this down a little bit, and I'm going to just go right here, then let's move this back a little bit and add this kind of into it. And same thing here. Let's just kind of move it into it. So this is a very weird thing. I have no idea what we're doing, but we're going to make it. So for this one right here, I'm going to turn it off. So I'm going to hit hide with a little eyeball right there. Now, if you click off of it and click on something else, it's gone. And what I'm going to do is hit the check boxes for both of these, and whatever is invisible is going to cut away. So if I use Boolean and I hit Boolean again, then you can see right here it has cut a hole in that. So we now have a hole cut in our sphere. And now if I wanted to join these, this would be a Boolean as well. So I can select all of these, hit Boolean again, and now these are all one object. So I can go ahead, and if I wanted to, I could smooth this out to where it is all one shape again. So you can see how we can easily start creating things by adding just primitives together. And now we can have different shapes. And this is how you can create some really custom things. Because now we've got this weird ball, like, I don't know, maybe it's a spaceship or something. But it could be whatever you wanted. But this is the coolest part about this program, is you can add, subtract, everything, and be able to make all kinds of cool stuff. So there we go. That is what Boolean does. And also, just like I've shown before, we can delete objects and then add in another primitive. So let's go ahead and add a cone this time. Now I want to take a second and just show you what mirror does before we validate this. So let's say I need 2 copies of this. And all I'm going to do is hit mirror, and it might not look like anything, but if you notice right here, we just created mirror in our scene panel, and underneath it is the cone. So let me just drag this to the right, and if you see, we have just made a duplicate. But it's mirrored. There's only one of them, so this is just kind of a clone of it over here. So if I go ahead and hit validate, now if I go into my clay tool, I could do something to this one over here, and it's going to do the same thing. So if I wanted to maybe turn this into some eyeballs or something like that for a weird monster, I could easily do that. So you can see, there we go. So clone is a very fun tool to use, and you can also change how many clones you're going to do. So there we go. You can add this, and now I've got 2 right there, and now it looks like kind of like mouths. But you can see it can really do a lot of cool things. So all you have to do when you're done with the mirror, you need to just click on the mirror and then hit validate. And then it's going to ask, do you want to join the children or uninstance everything or keep instances? I join the children because it's going to create it all as one mesh. So I'm just going to click yes. Now, when I go to, let's say, smooth, it's going to smooth everything really nicely. All right, so now that we've gone over all of that, let's talk about some of the core sculpting tools. I know I've already talked about some of them, but I think just showing them and understanding how they all work is super useful. Now, when it comes to clay, I've already kind of gone over it, but when it's just roughing things in and out, it is fantastic. So you can just kind of rough different things out however you want, and you can add on different things. So if I wanted to really start bringing this in, creating like a nose and that kind of stuff, like this is really where I can start doing that. And working on my general, whatever I'm wanting to make. Now, when it comes to brush is a little more aggressive. So you can see right there, it is very aggressive. And what it is it will start brushing and adding more things, but it's a lot smoother. So when you want something done that is really nice and smooth, this is what you're going to want to use, because it's really nice. And to be able to add on to it easily, just like that, is fantastic. Now, I don't know what kind of thing I've just created, but we're just kind of playing with it right now. But then if we're going to go to move, now the move tool is really nice because it is going to allow you to just kind of adjust what you're making. And you can just move it around a little bit and ever so slightly, and there you go. Now, the other thing is drag. Now, drag is going to be stretching it. So move is grabbing it and just kind of subtly shifting. But when you're using drag, it's going to stretch it more. So think of it like pinching clay. And that is what that's going to do. So you've just got to be careful when you're using it, because you can kind of get out of hand with it really fast, is what I've realized. Now, flatten and planer, these ones are really all about just kind of flattening spots. So if you're trying to flatten a spot out, that is really what it's all about. Now, crease and pinch are really, really useful. So for crease, what I'm going to do is, like, let's say I wanted to make this mouth, and I really want to kind of get some definition to it. I could do that, but I also have invert on, so let me undo that. And there we go. So now it's going to start pulling that in. And you can also get some really nice definition when you're dealing with that. So let's say I wanted to get some definition here and maybe put in some wrinkles or something like that. That is really where crease comes into play. So I could easily just click and drag and get like some nice creases in there. So like, along the nose, I want to create a crease there to get some definition along the nose and nostrils. I could do that just like that. So the other thing is pinch. Now pinch will start to bring the vertices to one specific spot. And that's what these lines are when you're seeing in wireframe. So you've just kind of got to understand a little more about like what's happening when it's doing that, because it's giving you a little more of that definition in certain areas. So that's really what pinch is. Now, when you're dealing with other things like trim will go ahead and cut things. So if I have something else, like let's just say I'm going to go to my scene, I'm going to add another sphere, and just instantly validate it. Let me scale this up, move this down, and let's just say that this is going to be the body of whatever this thing is. But I want it to be a bust. So what we're going to do is, first we're going to go to our front view, then I'm going to go to trim, and I'm going to come over here to trim, and I'm going to do line. You can use any one of these, but I like using line. You click and drag, and you can adjust this however you want. Then I make sure that I don't have auto validate turned on, just screen. Then all I need to do is tap this green dot. Anything on the white has completely been removed now. So if I jump back over to pinch, you can see how now we have cut that away. So trim is a very useful thing. Split works pretty much the same way, except for it'll turn it into two pieces. And you just want to really play with these different things. And I think I've already shown you layer. Layer is very nice to be able to get in those definitions of like going in and out. So if I go to layer right here, I can cut that away, or I can undo sub and I can add that as well. So like we can just add different layers to it. Now, the other thing you might notice, I just hit with 2 fingers. That is undo. You can also undo right here on the bottom left corner, or on the right, you can redo. So I could redo all of that or undo it. And one of the last tools I want to look at right here is the inflate tool. So what the inflate tool does is when you click and drag, especially in a circle, it'll start creating like an inflated like circle. And you can just really bring up ridges and things like that on it, and it's very useful. But for me, the real use is when we're using the sub. So what is it doing is it's reverse inflating. And I use this a lot for eye sockets. So like I will just use it like this, and then I'm just going to keep going and creating that cavity for the eyeballs. So there you can see that I have created that. Now I can create eyes. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's just go over here to our scene, add a sphere, and remember we're going to use our mirror tool. Then we're going to use our gizmo down here on the left side. And I'm just going to scale this down and move it over, and then move them over here. And there we go. So this is kind of creating those eyes for me. And if I move those out even more for me, there we go. Try to create what I'm looking for. There we go. I'm going to scale these a little weird. There we go. And so like now I have those nice eyeballs right there. So I'm going to turn off my wireframe and you kind of see it. You can see that this is very, very low poly right now. And this will lead us right into the next thing. So let's go ahead and validate those spheres. Now, when it comes to whatever this, like, I guess, goblin or something that I'm creating, when it comes to this, what we're going to do is we're going to remesh. And remeshing is a really important thing to understand. So right here, if we come to the pyramid, then we're going to come over here to Voxel. And what we're going to do is we're going to increase the resolution of this model. So if we go back to our wireframe here, we can see that all of the low poly right here. So let's increase this because we can't really do much with it anymore because we've really pushed this to its max. So all we need to do is click on the face, and then we're going to mess with our resolution. So let's say around 200 looks good. Then we're going to hit remesh. Then where it says we're going to lose something, some multi-resolution, that's fine. We're going to click OK. Now we can see that there is a lot of resolution to this. So when we zoom in, we can see all of these polygons now, instead of just those few. Now we can hide this, and this is where we can go into our smooth tool and really start to just smooth everything out and get rid of that polygon look. So you can see how instantly we're really getting rid of that, and it's starting to look nice. So we've got this, and we can even go into our different tools and really start to get some more definition too. This is just one of those things, if it's too low poly, sometimes you need to increase the resolution. So if I turn off my wireframe, now you can see that, you don't see that low poly as we used to. I know this is a very ugly looking guy, but we're just showing tools here. So yeah, when you need that resolution, just go ahead and use your Voxel remesh. That's the one that I recommend. Now, the last thing is when we're going over to our camera, over here on the very top toolbar, we're on the left-hand side, we click on our camera icon, and we can go between perspective and orthographic. That is one of the things that I just think you should be aware of, because I like to work in orthographic mode, but if you are in perspective, you can see how it kind of changes your view. So staying in orthographic really does help. Now, the other thing that I really do like, so say if I'm on the front view and I need to tilt this down just a little bit to see his, maybe his nose, I can click Add View. And this one I could name, I could even say, let's call this Nose View. There we go. So now the nice thing is when I'm moving around here, I can easily just tap on that and it will move me right back to that. So if I come around here, I'm moving around and I tap on my new view, it will instantly switch me back. Now this is very handy for when you're sculpting and you need to get in a certain view because you're adding some details and you want to come back to it maybe. You can add these views and you can add as many as you want. And the other nice thing is once you've created that, you'll have this little modifier right here on the screen that you can just tap, and then you can toggle between your different views. So I could easily put one on the side right here, add a view right here, and now I can toggle between those two views because I have my custom views. So that is just something that is very useful to have. Okay, so now that we've created everything we've wanted, the big thing here is like, well, how can I use this for 3D printing? And let me show you how to do that. Once you've created your final sculpt, what we're going to do is come up here to the folder in the top left toolbar. Then we're going to scroll down here and right here, STL. Now we can also select everything that is in the scene. We can do only what's visible, or if we tap on something, only what is selected. So let's do everything visible. Then we're going to click Export STL. So now we're going to hit that, and this is going to give us our options to get this out of the Nomad Sculpt and onto our computer. So if you have a Mac, you can easily airdrop this to yourself, or you can email it to yourself. I like to use a Google Drive, but you can also use a Dropbox or anything like that. So the big thing is it's going to be different for everybody, but there's multiple ways to be able to get this off of your mobile device. So that is the big thing. Then you can just bring that directly into your slicer, and you might have to scale it up depending on what the scale is you're working in. But this is really an amazing way to be able to create your own models and 3D print them. So just to show you some of the capabilities of Nomad Sculpt, since I showed you this ugly little goblin, I guess, that I made, this is a little derpy dog that I made, and it was so much fun to model, and it really shows some of the capabilities of Nomad Sculpt. And I only made this maybe in a half an hour. It didn't take me very long because a lot of the tools are so simple to use. And that is the big thing. It's just getting in there and practicing and messing around with all of the things that I've shown you. Because you can make something exactly like this using everything that I showed you today. But this is just one of the things that I've modeled in here, and I've also 3D printed this guy, and you can see that he is super fun, and he's a fun little 3D print. And it was a lot of fun to make and just to see, like, something that I 3D modeled, and now it's in my hands. So now you have a solid understanding of where things are and generally how they work in Nomad Sculpt. And don't forget, if you are interested in diving deeper and want to follow a full project from start to 3D print, be sure to join the Guild waitlist. And also, if you're not familiar with what the 3D Print Guild is, it is my private community focused on 3D printing, painting, and 3D modeling. Whether you're just getting started or you've been in the hobby for some years now, the Guild is the place to learn, collaborate, and grow alongside others that share your same passion. I'll drop a link to the waitlist down below so you can be notified the next time that the doors to the Guild open. And that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and as always, I wish you a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.